Okay, next we'll take up H.R. 36 by Chairman Geymann, Ms. Champagne.
Mr. Chairman, members, House Resolution 36 by Representative Geymann approves the annual state integrated coastal protection plan for fiscal year 2026 as adopted by the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority Board.
Thank you, Ms. Champagne. I think she was getting Representative Geymann back through me, from me mispronouncing her name and she mispronounced his. We haven't had, in this committee, we haven't instituted a 3-minute rule just yet this term. Representative Moore has made the motion to institute a 3-minute rule. We still have, I think, 10 bills left, and we're supposed to be on the floor at 1, so if it's okay. Any objections? Okay, seeing none. Madam Secretary, we can... We're going to go ahead and get started with testimony, and we'll take up the 3-minute rule when we have a quorum. Go ahead.
You want to start? Yes, first of all, members Gordon Dove, Chairman of Coastal Protection Restoration Authority Board, and we thank y'all for our annual plan, which is very robust with quite a few projects. I think 146 projects, from barrier islands to marsh restoration to hurricane protection to pump stations. And so with that, I would ask the chairman, if I'll go ahead and turn it over to Glenn Leday, Executive Director, to present the plan. Thank you all very much, members.
Thank you, Chairman Dove. Appreciate your service. Mr. Leday, please introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Glenn Leday, CPRA Executive Director. Thanks to the Chairman and Committee for allowing us to present today on the fiscal year 2026 annual plan. So with that, I'll jump right in, and then happy to answer any questions when I finish. We've got a broad presentation to showcase the great work that we're doing here at CPRA throughout the coastal zone of Louisiana. As you'll see in the presentation, we've got, as the chairman said, 146 projects across the state, and you'll see we've got really large projects. We've got one of the largest marsh creation projects in the state at Lake Bourne. We've got one of the larger barrier island projects in the state's history, Chandelier. So I'll go through all this work and then showcase that. Before I start, just want to touch on a year in review. You can see this in our annual plan. Want to just highlight a couple of things that are in this plan that you'll notice. We have the 2 largest restore grants ever received, one for the river reintroduction into Maurepas Swamp, as well as one for the Home and Navigation Canal Lock Complex. Both projects we broke ground on last year, and so those are full force underway in implementation. We actually initiated one of the largest studies of the lower Mississippi. That's the Lower Mississippi River Comprehensive Study. You see the picture of us meeting there with the governor and Colonel Jones of the New Orleans district there, kicking off the scoping of that project and the review of the old river control structure. And so that's a big effort that we're partnered with the Corps as well as 6 other states in the lower Mississippi area. We've got groundbreakings on a number of things, one of which I just want to highlight in this slide is Reach A levee system, Marganza to the Gulf. We'll touch on that 98-mile system, but that is the first large federally authorized segment of the project that's being constructed. And then finally, at the end of the year, we passed the Federal Water Resources Development Act, obviously with the support of our congressional delegation, and that had a whole host of really good things for the state of Louisiana, one of which is a large-scale flood risk reduction program for St. Tammany Parish. The largest project in that bill was in Louisiana in St. Tammany Parish. So a really big year for us, and just wanted to highlight those key things before we jump in. A number of just procedural things. As you know, this plan starts every year in the fall. We develop the plan through outreach with our stakeholders, parishes, levy districts, and the public. That draft plan is presented to the CPRA board every year. It was presented this year in January. That follows the public outreach period of the draft plan. This year we had the 4 required public meetings, 3 in person and 1 on virtual, with over 200 attendees and 239 comments received. So always really get good feedback on this. And then that allows us to address those comments and then present that plan to the CPRA board. It was passed unanimously on April 16th and then presented to the legislature. And this is the first committee that we sit through, as well as House Natural Resources and then Senate Natural Resources and Transportation as well. And so with that, happy to present the annual plan to you. This year, as you see, the total expenditures for the plan is just under $2 billion. It's $1.98 billion, and then 79% of that goes into construction. Yeah, and so we're always proud of the amount that goes back into project implementation. You see there over 93% of those expenditures go into implementation, and only 2% goes back to CPRA for operating costs. So really proud of that. But with that, what makes up the program is really a variety of funding sources, none of which come from state general fund. And so you can see there our largest recurring revenue source is Go Mesa, the offshore oil and gas royalties that come from the U.S. Treasury. We've got our chunk of Deepwater Horizon spill settlement dollars. That's NERDA, NIFWIF, and Restore. And then we have several other programs like QIPRA, the original John Breaux Act that helps to restore wetlands and protect wetlands. We do have surplus and capital outlay in there, as well as state non-surplus and other state mineral revenues that make up the entirety of the program every year. With that, in each annual plan, we always do a look ahead, and so you can see the total expenditures that we expect to have over the next 3 years, and you see the $1.7 billion in FY27, and then the $1.32 billion in FY28. And so, obviously, with the Deepwater Horizon settlement, we have a healthy program that runs all the way through 2032, and so you can see those expenditures are still quite high, with over 80% going into construction or implementation. And then with that, every year, we just want to do a snapshot of what that means to the state in terms of economic impact. And so with the 146 projects, $1.98 billion, you can see it supports over 13,000 direct jobs and over $770 million in labor income. And just as a snapshot, we obviously do a lot of dredging work associated with the marsh creation and restoration work in our program. This year, we can utilize over 70 million cubic yards to build over 16,000 acres. Compared to this past fiscal year, we built almost 12,000 acres of marsh and wetland habitat. And so you can see that number continue to grow. So that's really good, as well as 93% of this money goes back into project expenditures. So really proud of those statistics. And then with that, Chairman, if you will, we can do a snapshot of the projects in each region and then look at some of our coastal initiatives and close it out for questions. And so we always break it up into the Southwest, South Central, and Southeast and do our meetings associated with those regions. And so the first is starting in the Southeast. You can see we've got 21 active implementation projects and another 46 in operation, maintenance, and monitoring. You can see the variety of projects we have there, but I'd like to highlight some of our large-scale projects that we're building in that region. And so the first is a federally authorized program called Southwest Coastal, and that actually includes both flood risk reduction through non-structural home elevation and commercial floodproofing means, as well as the ecosystem restoration. And so you can see this first component. This is the non-structural. This is actually the first home elevated in this program, one of the first in CPRA in the Corps' history through this program. And so very proud of that. We're undergoing the pilot, the first 17 homes with the Corps of Engineers right now. And then from there, we'll move into implementation of the larger program. We're actually starting starting the assessment of the larger program, 320 homes beyond that. And this is in Cameron, Vermilion, and Calcasieu parishes. So this is what makes up that Southwest Coastal Non-Structural Flood Risk Reduction Program. And so it's really a large-scale program across those 3 parishes. That broke ground in October of last year. And then in addition to that, we've got the ecosystem and protection component of that program. And so you can see there, that is the shoreline protection work that we'll be initiating as part of this. This is the first component of that. You can see that will expand on the state and local work that's already been done. And so that will include the extension of the Cameron Parish shoreline protection efforts, of which the Rockefeller Refuge is set to go first. And so what we're doing is we're partnering with the Corps on this program, doing work in kind design credit, and then eventually construction in the starting this fall throughout this fiscal year. And so that will include shoreline revetment work, segmented breakwaters, as well as the future marsh creation and hydrologic restoration. So this is a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar program that we're undergoing here in Southwest Coastal. And then in addition to that, we have one of our largest restore projects beyond just HNC Lock and Maurepas, and that is the Calcasieu Sabine large-scale marsh and hydrologic restoration over there on the east side of Calcasieu Lake. That is on the Cameron Creole Refuge, and will include both conveyance channel improvements, marsh creation, and hydrologic restoration. And that's $261 million from Restore. So a very large program there in Southwest Louisiana that we're actually kicking off in construction this year. And so we're excited to see that'll be advertised and bid later this summer. So that'll be a really exciting program that you'll see featured in our annual plans for years to come. And then in addition to that, we have a partnership with Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. This is for the large-scale restoration of White Lake. And so if you remember last year, we funded a master plan for White Lake, and now we're kickstarting some of the initial shoreline protection work, both along the GIWW as well as northern rim of White Lake, to protect that entire region, over 70,000 acres of habitat there at White Lake. And so we had the opportunity to take a trip with Wildlife earlier this year, and we'll be kickstarting the construction of that first implementation component this fiscal year. So with that, you know, we obviously have a lot of projects in each region, and so that wraps up some of the larger projects in the Southwest. Wanted to feature projects in South Central as well. You can see we've got 41 active projects, another 41 in OM&M. And the largest of that is the work that's ongoing now for the Home and Navigation Canal Lock Complex. And this is the cornerstone of that Morganza to the Gulf Federal Flood Protection System. This component is also funded with Restore, over $330 million of 110-foot wide, 800-foot long lock complex with sector gates adjacent to the Bubba Dove barge gate. And so that will provide that critical need that we have for both environmental, salinity intrusion, reduction benefits, as well as navigation and flood protection. And you can see there that is under construction. Again, we broke ground last August, and so good work going on there. You'll see this project featured over the next couple of years in our annual plan until we finish that in 2028. And then related to that system is also the levee improvements. And so as I mentioned, really for the first time in the state's history, we have both federal, state, and local levee improvement work that's ongoing there in Terrebonne Parish and Lafourche Parish with the Morganza to the Gulf 98-mile system. You can see this is some of the work that was done to improve levees at Reach I. That was actually just completed in March of this year for substantial completion. They'll be working on seeding, but you can see just the amount of work that's being done there. We were obviously very fortunate in Hurricane Francine to have the interim system in place that provided protection to over 200,000 people and provided surge reduction at 11 feet. And so we're continuing to raise those levees to get to that ultimate height, but you'll see obviously this featured in all of our annual plans as we continue to progress. And then in addition to that, in the South Central region, also working on the Iberia-St. Mary upland levee system. That levee system's over 13 miles long. You can see some of the initial work that's being done in water control structures along that alignment. We'll be evaluating the design for the gate systems at both Delcombe Avery and Commercial Canal in this annual plan, and then also doing the initial feasibility work on the Abbeville and vicinity system. So these are actually state and local systems that are part of our 2023 master plan. And so you'll see that work kick off really for the first time in the state's history. And you see the construction there that's being funded through last year and this year's FY26 plan for the water control structures. Then another big program that we're kicking off is the restoration, the large-scale restoration of Marsh Island. And so this will be building on some of the original work that was done through CAP and CPRA. And so this will include marsh creation, terracing, and shoreline protection work, another good partnership with Wildlife and Fisheries. And so that was part of that 2023 master plan. And so we're kicking off the implementation of some of these phases, starting some of the feasibility work with wildlife right now. And then finally, in terms of regions, we have Southeast, obviously a large region. We got 84 active projects, another 110 in OM and M, all different varieties. But with that, just want to highlight some of the bigger ones. Weren't able to include pictures, but we've got the ongoing construction of the Lake Barn Marsh Creation, which is the largest marsh creation project in the state's history at over 3,100 acres, and that will continue through FY26 to completion. And so we have that as well. But did want to highlight we are kicking off the construction for the largest barrier island project in the state's history. And so that's the Chandelier Islands restoration. This is over 13 miles of restoration of one of the premier habitats in Louisiana, home to over 70 species of wildlife and fisheries and marine life, shorebird habitat nesting, as well as a very large habitat for sea turtles, including the Kemp's Ridley, which is one of the most endangered in the world. And so we're really excited about this. We initiated that project, the CMAR for that last week, and made that announcement. And so you will see that start construction in this fiscal year. And that includes the restoration of this North Chandelier Islands as well as New Harbor Island. And so you'll be hearing us update you in the next several annual plans with this project. But this is one of our cornerstone projects as we look forward over the next 3 years. And then with that, we have one of our largest flood protection programs that's ongoing in construction. You can see that. That's the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain Hurricane Protection Project. This is the project that's highly visible as you drive between Baton Rouge and New Orleans on Interstate 10. That's the 18.5-mile system that protects both St. Charles, St. John, as well as St. James parishes. The sections in St. Charles and St. John are underway, and then working with St. James to initiate that work as well. And so that is that partnership with the Corps of Engineers and CPRA as well as Pontchartrain Levee District. And so you'll see that continue through fiscal year 28 as well till we get to completion. A lot of the levee work is already underway, and then the construction of the initial pump stations will be underway later this year. And then with that, we have the mitigation for that project, and that is the river reintroduction into Maurepas Swamp. This was one of the large groundbreaking events we held late last year in December. Excited to kick that off. That's the 2000 CFS river diversion into Maurepas Swamp. That's part of that program. And so this will be another cornerstone for the agency that's part of West Shore Lake Pontchartrain to mitigate for those wetland impacts, but also provides restoration for thousands of acres in Maurepas Swamp. And so you'll see that underway in this fiscal year as well as over the next 3 years as well. And then, of course, we have in the Southeast, of course, federal flood protection, but also have state and local, one of which is the tidal protection program in Lafitte. And so that's got a number of polders. We work every year on progressing that. You can see some of the bulkhead raising work that was done there in Lower Lafitte. We've got a number of polders we're actually in construction for now, and then several, such as Crown Point Phase 2, that will be initiating through this fiscal year. And so we'll continue that program with the Lafitte Area Levee District and implementation of that through these next 3 years as well. And then in that program, we're also working with the Corps of Engineers to initiate the non-structural home elevation portions. That's beyond what the state and locals have already done. And then finally, kicking off a new federal flood protection project, and this is the Upper Barataria Risk Reduction System. This is the levee system that was federally authorized in a worded bill 2 years ago, and it actually runs from St. Charles to Lafourche Parish across Bayou des Allemands. One of the key features that you see will be funded in our program is the Bayou des Allemands floodgate complex, and so that includes that gate and flood wall system that'll cross Bayou des Allemands and tie into Lafourche Parish. And so we'll be actually raising and improving the system in St. Charles and building that new system to connect to Morganza to the Gulf. And so this will connect that West Bank and vicinity system to Morganza to the Gulf. So really exciting effort there. That's that partnership that we'll have both with the Corps as well as CPRA, St. Charles Parish, Lafourche Basin Levee District, and the North Lafourche Levee District. So you'll see a lot of activity over this next decade to implement that program. And then with that, a number of initiatives we like to highlight, one of which is our parish matching program. Every year we award matching projects to leverage dollars at the local end. And so with that, this year we awarded to 5 parishes, $6 million. You can see the types of projects there, whether it's shoreline protection, terracing, or habitat restoration. We've got those listed: Terrebonne, Lafourche, St. Tammany, Tangipahoa, and Vermilion. And then, of course, the continuation of rebuilding our barrier island system. We've got a number of barrier islands and headlands that we're rebuilding in the Terrebonne Basin. The one that hopefully will go to construction this year will be the West Bell Headland. A number of others that are in design, working with federal agencies and state and local on. And then we have the work that we're doing in the Barataria Basin as well, working with the port on resiliency at the Caminada Headland, and the continuation of the work with the Corps in Grand Isle. And so you'll see those hopefully in construction this year as well. And then we have a series of large-scale marsh creation, terracing, and land bridge projects. One in the Mid-Breton system that we're continuing and working on there. You can see some of the initial construction on the left in that area near Delacroix. And then another that we're kick-starting this year is the Barataria Basin Land Bridge, large-scale marsh creation and terracing. You can see, similar to Spanish Pass Increment 1, we'll be rebuilding and extending that ridge and then building others in lower and in mid-basin as well. So we'll be kickstarting those programs in Barataria Basin through this fiscal year 2026 plan. And then finally, every year as part of this, ever since the program was transferred over to CPRA in 2019, is the Atchafalaya Plan. And so this year, that includes obviously the annual plan, the projects that are funded as part of this. Some of the key projects that we'll be working to initiate are the Grimmett Canal improvements as well as Murphy Lake depth restoration in the Atchafalaya Basin. But through this, we're also working on the first real update to the Atchafalaya Basin floodway system Louisiana master plan. And so this has not been updated since the original master plan came out at the inception of the program. So that will be a really large effort that's multiple years. It started last year and we'll be continuing it this year. And then with that, we were able to break ground on a big boat launch improvement project as part of this program. That is the Bayou Pigeon boat launch in Iberville. That will complete construction through this FY 2026 plan, and that is really kind of the gateway to the basin on the east side. And so we're excited to see the improvements there, the expansion of that boat launch. It's really heavily used. And then finally, with that, really thankful that we got the opportunity to present this to the committee. We've got really good graphics at our website, ap26.coastal.la.gov. And so if you have a chance, beyond just the booklet that we give you, go take a look at that website to look at the impact that these projects have geographically across the state. And so with that, happy to answer any questions. I'm sorry for the lengthy presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Ledet. I do have one quick question. It's always impressive to see the data, the numbers. On average, what is our typical expenditure related to construction? I mean, I know sometimes a project starts in one year and has to move to another fiscal year, but on average, what are we looking at expenditure-wise for construction only? If you have.
Yeah, for construction only, it's roughly, anywhere from 40 to 65% of what that number is. So, if it's $1 billion, it could be 600 million. And so, we obviously look for excess budget authority through the spending plans, not knowing when those, the advertisement and bidding will actually fall in what fiscal year, trying to accelerate that as much as we can.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, the board is clear. Thank you. We do have quite a few folks wishing to speak. Present, wishing to speak, Keith Hinckley, Plaquemine Parish President, and Dean Blanchard. We'll take you two, and then we have two more in support.
Go ahead. Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. I appreciate that. Keith Hinckley, Plaquemine Parish President. I appreciate the opportunity just to say a few words, but as it's presented today, this plan, I'm in full support of this without any type of amendments. I think we can move forward with this plan in the future. I think it's taken us in a positive direction, especially for Plaquemine Parish. I think Chairman Dove mentioned something that there's 140-something projects on this plan here, and I believe somewhere in the neighborhood of somewhere between 25 to 30 of the projects are in Plaquemine Parish. So again, I just want to emphasize, and it's way it's presented to us today here for Plaquemine Parish, this is a very positive direction for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm Dean Blanchard from Grand Isle, Louisiana, and I agree with him. I believe the way the plan's brought up today, as long as y'all don't change nothing, and we can live with it. We live with it, and well, I like to say, if the people that talk, they come up here, the people that live down the bar don't want that diversion. I mean, they just don't want it. I mean, I see 90% of people in my area from Lafourche Parish to Grand Isle don't want the diversion. The only people that want the diversion, the people that don't live down there. So I hope y'all keep that in mind for later on, and just let this year go and see where we at next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you both for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Kim Chauvin, present, wishing to speak. David Cormerdale, Mayor Cormerdale, present, in support, wishing to speak.
Good morning, I'm Kim Chauvin. I just bought Dean Blanchard's place in Grand Isle, but I also have one in Dulac, so that makes our companies the largest warm water shrimp buyers in the country. So this is particularly concerning to me, but I am in support of where this is going. The executive director and I have had really good talks and continue throughout the last 8 to 12 years. So I'm in full support of it. I think he understands our industry more now at this point, and I'd love to give this a go this year.
Thank you, ma'am.
Morning. Mayor Commodore from Grand Isle, born and raised on the island, elected since 1989 as a councilman, and just got reelected mayor since 1996. On both sides of my family were fishermen, and Dean Blanchard was raised with me down there. But I'm here to tell you that working with the Corps through the previous years in Washington, D.C., building the levees way back, and our rocks today, we got $122 million from the Corps. The governor right away got in touch with me. He wants to continue putting the rocks on the Gulf side. This weekend, for Easter weekend, it was amazing, the families that came on the island. Our beach is just about complete. When you see hurricanes, I'm on the television, and I'm always facing the Gulf of Mexico. So by working with CPRA, with the governor's office, with Gordy Dove, putting this together, we're going to put 37 more segments that the governor's on the plan, the master plan, is to continue putting the rocks. Then you don't have to worry about the coastal erosion on that side. I can focus on the north side. But we're coming up with some levees and several projects in that plan is going to put some more pumps where we can pump when the high tide comes. And today I'm here today to represent the fishermen on the families on both sides. I was born and raised. I crab, I fished, I shrimped on both sides. Dean Blanchard was raised with me, the shrimpers. I can tell you that my grandpa on both sides of the family. My dad moved there in 1947, and my mother's family moved there in she was a Golden Medal girl. My dad ran to a Grand Isle and married her. So what I'm trying to tell you is, we don't want the diversions. I don't need no more water. I'm lobbying now to elevate LA1 to the Department of Transportation. She can tell you, just buying a business. Right now, just on a rainy storm day, we flood from three-quarters of the island coming to the bridge, and when you're coming into the Chenier Caminada. So I don't need no more fresh water. If this goes through, the diversion goes through, I'm asking for 10 inches. I'll get another foot. That's 2 foot. They got to raise LA1. Our road in Hackberry Bay, which I had a lease there, my wife and I went to take a ride this past weekend. It's amazing. It's amazing to see that right now, if you had dredges, you could see what Ducks Unlimited did, the Shell Oil companies did, coming toward Grand Isle and Fort Fourchon. They took excavators and started taking mud out the water and started building little ridges all around and planting the mangroves. This is what we need to see. They're building a new bridge in Leeville. Right now, they're building a new bridge in Leeville, and when they came, they had a little dredge that worked 3 or 4 months, and 5 months after that, the birds are nesting. So the environmentalists that come from California are going to come tell a coon ass how to live. That ain't going to happen. Excuse my French. I mean, I'm a Barry Island. I belong to Louisiana. And right now, I'm forced to where I got to bring my residents back. And I can guarantee you, working together with you, Grand Isle last week, it's called the Grand Isle Jewel. We're raising oysters in some traps right now, right across from her business, where the salinity is perfect. So Louisiana's going to have the best of a Grand Isle salty oysters. So again, we're looking for your support, and anything that you can think of that extra, send it to Grand Isle. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have 2 more cards present wishing to speak, Mr. A.C. Cooper and Mr. George Barisic.
Go ahead.
Did I get that right?
First time I got it right in years.
Hot dog. Let's shut it down. That's the first right thing I did today, I promise you.
No, we can't go that route.
When your last name is Booyak, you get you respect other people's last names. Whoever wishes to go first.
How y'all doing? Thank y'all for having us. You know, we're from Lower Plaquemine Parish and with Keaton and the parish. That diversion would have killed us. You know, we have the East Bank, we have Mardi Gras Pass that busted open. It's killing the East Bank with all that fresh water. And here we're talking about the Bonnie Carey Spillway opening up again. Any more fresh water on that lower end is just going to take the fishermen completely out of it. You know, there's things that's happening down there. All our passes are stopped up. Can't get no more water through. We keep having this high river, the water can't go out. We have about 4 main passes down there that are stopped up completely. We have South Pass, Pass Aluda, Main Pass, Baptiste Colette, and Tiger Pass. They're only worried about commerce. They're not worried about the land. We should never have an issue with land with all the dredging we're having in this river. But by stopping up all these passes, we're getting more land lost quicker now than we ever did in my life. I'm a 50-year fisherman, been living down there 50 years, been fishing for 65 years. I'm fishing for 50 years. And we've seen over the years what is happening. Half of the river they pump out, they go throw off the shelf. The other half they dump by the head of the pass and stopped up all our passes. The other end of them passes are completely eaten away so fast that we have bays that are starting to connect that never connected before. We have the Gulf Current going through 2 of our main bays on the end of them, in the Pass Aluda that never was like that. We don't need no more water busting in our river. We need dredges to clean our passes out and let Mother Nature do her job like she was designed to do. Open these passes back up, create it back like Mother Nature was intended, and let's move forward with this. And we appreciate Gordon Dove for what he's doing, because Barataria would have killed us. This is our best 2 sanctuaries in this state, in this country. Is the east side of the river, the Barataria, and the east side of the river with written sounds, and yet we're gonna kill it by pumping pumping with fresh water in it. You're going to kill Louisiana like that. So the main thing we want to do is save our area, save our land, and protect what's there, and help get more. By doing that, open our passes back up. Let them do what Mother Nature was intended to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you all very much for giving us this opportunity here. 69 years old. I've been fishing since I've been 10. And but I'm going to give you a quick history lesson.
Give me your name before you give me
George
the... Thank
Barisic,
you.
I'm sorry. 20 some odd years ago, the predecessor to the CPRA was a different board to set this up. We were given 2 commercial fishing seats, one for the oysters, one for the shrimp. So we never could win a vote, but at least we could bring all the issues back up. So back then we started getting against diversions. And no, this is not going to work, this is not going to work, this is not going to work. And we just kept getting outvoted. But the sad part about it, after our 3-year term was up, the commercial fishing industries were put on advisory capacity only. They didn't want to give us any kind of power to represent ourselves. So as the public hearings came along, the public hearings in every coastal parish was 93 to 97% against diversions because we know how bad they were going to be. So what did they do? They kept on going further north, further north, further north, and had these public hearings. Well, you get North Louisiana and said, do you believe in coastal erosion? They said, yeah. So that's how they got it pushed. Back in the day, they never had the money to push this. The issue was always there. They never had the money. Lo and behold, okay, here comes the BP spill. So instead of giving the money to the commercial fishermen or rebuilding stuff that's going to do some good, they're going to take it and put a diversion that's going to put us out of business. We have examples of what's been going on. Black Bay area, I don't know if y'all familiar with it, was the most prolific oyster grounds in the world at one time. Season used to run from September 2nd to April 31st. We get 9 months of fishing oysters. Now you get a 10-day season because of the Carnarvon freshwater diversion. It wasn't even a sediment diversion. It was just fresh water. It killed all that area, took all the brown shrimp away from there. So Senator Dean was a senator from St. Bernard. He said, Mr. Barisic, he said, you got to understand one thing. Figures don't lie, but liars sure do figure. And that's what he schooled me on. So opening day of the season, after the diversion ran for 3 months, for 3 years, we had 10% of the boats shrimping out there. Gone. Whole area is knocked out. We're down to 2,500 to 3,000 commercial fishermen from 30,000 in 1986. So, as Mr. Dean says, figures don't lie, but lies sure do figure. We're going down the tubes. We don't need something like this to put that final nail in the coffin. Thank you all very much for listening. Take care.
Thank you for your time and your
Thank you.
testimony today. We're going to move into cards, white cards present, wishing to speak. Liz Russell, Charles Sutcliffe. While they're coming to the table, I'm going to try to take y'all in twos. That way we can move. We have other cards present, in support, not wishing to speak. Ethan Melanson, Kelly Williams, Guy Cormier, Meg Bankston, Annie Tesvich. I got that first name right? Ante. You got to put me an accent grave or accent aigu on there. Scott Kirkpatrick, Tony Tesvich. Is that Lloyd Newsom? Kimberly Buck, Kenneth Helm, John Brown, Claudia Helmer, Jerry Helmer, Cecil Whitingney. Whoever would like to go first.
Okay, thank you, members, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having me here today. My name is Charles Sutcliffe. I'm a representative of the National Wildlife Federation, and I just have some information just to provide a little more context on some of the news items you might have heard this weekend about the biggest project in this year's annual plan. So I think on the issue of cost, which comes up a lot when people talk about Mid-Barataria, what the CPRA is not telling you is that derailing this project is extremely wasteful. By walking away, CPRA will have wasted around $500 million so far, and that's more money that's ever been spent on restoration in Cameron, Calcasieu, Vermilion, Iberia, St. Mary, St. Martin, or Assumption parishes in their history. That's about as much money as ever been spent on the top 4 largest coastal restoration projects the state has ever completed. CPRA is also telling the public that this project's price tag has increased, and so we can no longer afford it. But what they aren't telling you is that the construction contract is a guaranteed maximum price contract, meaning that the increases in cost are because of the state's delays and not because of the contractor. They're also saying that the project budget, the $3 billion you hear so much, also includes $374 million to cover contingencies that are related to construction and other issues, and that the project itself is more cost effective at building land. So CPRA estimated in 2018 that to dredge and create the same amount of land would cost around $4 billion, which is $5.2 billion in today's money, which is $2 billion more than Mid-Barataria sediment diversion. Finally, on the cost issue, CPRA has been talking about the O&M budget for this project and how that is too high at $189 million, which really is for a 50-year project that's really only about $3.7 million a year. And NERDA is actually covering the vast majority of that money. So the NERDA is covering $148 million of that, which means the cost of the coastal program is $40 million over 50 years, which is about $800,000 a year. Is that too much to spend on the largest and most effective restoration project in the master plan? Just to put that last O&M number in perspective, the annual budget for O&M for the Terrebonne Levee District was around $6 million, according to 2023. And so finally, the other issue that's come up a lot is about modeling, and I think that's been particularly disheartening because the CPRA's basic argument is that they cannot be relied on for science-based decision-making, and implicitly that the dozens of engineers and scientists at CPRA and all the private contracting firms that work together on that project are also untrustworthy. And so the facts are that there actually was no cover-up. This is a complicated project that relied on multiple models built for different reasons. One of those models was for the EIS and the permit that basically was asking, what are the impacts on the basin? And so they used a basin-wide model, and its characteristics were agreed upon by an entire multi-party modeling working group. A separate process, the engineering and design process, created a different model to ask a different question. What is happening at the structure's intake, at the conveyance channel, and the outfall area? It was focused on sediment buildup on the conveyance channel. It was not focused on the basin-wide impacts. And so, again, I think it's concerning that this administration knows the difference between these two models and these processes and has chosen to misrepresent this as some kind of smoking gun because it craters the reputation of their own agency. And so that's just some information for the committee. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Sutcliffe.
Thank you, committee members. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Liz Russell. I'm the State Director for Environmental Defense Action Fund. I'm from New Orleans, but I have the privilege of spending a lot of time in the Atchafalaya Basin. I actually want to start with a recognition that the Mississippi River built most of southern Louisiana, and reconnecting the river is the most powerful tool that we have to fight land loss and flood risk across our communities. Actually, if you go out into the basin this weekend, the river's high and building land right now as we speak. The state has historically played a really significant and crucial role of maintaining regional and comprehensive coastal restoration and thinking holistically in terms of multiple lines of defense to reduce our flood risk and to reduce the impacts of land loss to our communities and our businesses. And I really want to highlight that because we do not at EDF Action oppose the overall plan, but we have really grave concerns on the steps that the administration has taken to undermine large-scale restoration projects, including Mid-Barataria sediment diversion. In terms of the project costing too much, I want to acknowledge that the $572.8 million that are in this master plan, in this annual plan today, are part of that investment of reconnecting the river. And moving forward with the annual plan as it is, I want to encourage all of you as members of our legislature to be considering whether or not we should be approving a plan that has allocated so much money for a project that the administration has illustrated it's not actually intending to move forward on. I also want to highlight that there are $380 million in mitigation funds for this project to elevate homes, provide bulkheads, elevate roads, provide voluntary acquisition for people who want buyouts, but then also fisheries support for fisheries to actually deal with the impacts that we're already seeing competing against import products. So I also want to talk about the reality that sort of stopping or significantly altering this project actually puts key funding sources at risk for our broader coastal master plan and sends a message that for the state to our investors that we're not actually able to be trusted, and that's hugely risky. In the context of the fisheries, I want to acknowledge that for particular species and fisheries in particular geographies, there could be and are expected negative impacts, but in the near term, and the project will change the current ecology and economies, but the Coastal Master Plan explicitly provides funding and support to foster that transition from near-term challenges to the improvements in the health of the fisheries in the long term, which I know is really critical to all of us. I really want to just end with a recognition that as we have already spent more than $600 million on this project, walking away leaves the state with significant financial risk in terms of our state budget. We could be required to pay back that money at the federal level, not even to mention the litigation that could come from contractors who have hired people, they've bought equipment, they've had piles manufactured that can't go back up on a shelf somewhere. They've not taken other work. So I really want to make sure that you guys are holding all of those questions, that now y'all are considering your role as members here in asking those questions, because it is a decision point now whether or not the state wants to move forward with something that's been in the works for decades. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Board's clear. Thank you. Lauren Berg. Kendra Orneson. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Hello. Chairman, committee members, my name is Lauren Berg, and I work for the National Audubon Society. I am also a lifelong resident of South Louisiana and not from California. When the Landry administration took office, the linchpin project of the state's coastal master plan, the Mid-Barataria sediment diversion, had already completed years of environmental review, permitting, was fully funded by oil spill fines, and under construction. But now, after over a year of self-imposed delays, sidelining staff with experience and expertise, and pleading with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to rescind the state's own permit, this administration has begun to demobilize the site and is walking away from this critical $3 billion infrastructure project. This administration has attempted to frame its opposition to the diversion as a financial issue. When that didn't work, they resorted to cherry-picked technical details to cast doubt on its benefits. And when that did not succeed, they walked away from commitments to agreed-upon terms in the state's own permit with the Corps, and then requested that the Corps rescind that permit. But let's be honest about what's happening here. The issue is not money, it is not science, it is not permitting, it is not culture. The issue is politics. For 2 decades, Louisiana's coastal program has maintained that the only fair way to make project decisions is to maximize the role of science and engineering, not politics, because our needs are too great and our resources are too limited. This approach has been critical to the program's ability to secure $21.6 billion in primarily outside funding. So when this administration decides to let politics rule the day, they are not just killing this project. They are risking the credibility and the function of the entire coastal program. If you have a project in this annual plan in your area, or if you represent an area outside of the coastal zone, you may feel comfortable passing this plan today, thinking that this issue is not a problem that applies to you. But that couldn't be further from the truth. If this linchpin project, found in all previous and current coastal master plans, is allowed to unravel and be picked apart for the sake of politics, it sends the message that any infrastructure project in this state may be undone by a few stakeholders who engage in politics with the right people, discarding the scientific and engineering principles upon which all of these projects are grounded. This administration's strategy to kill the project has been very straightforward. The only unclear aspect of this strategy is why the legislature is being asked to approve this $1.9 billion plan when roughly 1/3 of it is dedicated to the project they are actively dismantling and have no intention of building. Why doesn't this plan include CPRA's alternative project for the the Barataria Basin? Why did CPRA leadership hold public hearings and accept public comment for 2 months on a plan containing this project while they were working behind closed doors to undermine it? Why haven't they told this committee and the public about their new project's proposed benefits? Who will pay for that project, and what mitigation will be required? Why does the development of their alternative project get different treatment? Bypassing peer review for science and engineering, no stakeholder engagement, 0 public meetings. And how does the state plan to address the over $500 million in sunk costs that have already been spent? Is it because there's no alternative plan will yield the same benefits for the coast? At the very least, the state should inform the legislators and the public how many more years they will have to wait before seeing meaningful restoration in the Barataria Basin. At a time of great uncertainty for Louisiana's budget and economy, and as Louisiana's coast continues to erode at some of the highest rates of land loss in the world, we should expect more from our government than to play politics with the state's money, with our coastal master plan, and the benefits of its largest restoration project. Sadly, this is precisely what is happening with the Mid-Barataria sediment diversion. And since all of the members of this committee are being asked to approve this plan, I would hope that all of you can get answers to these and, frankly, many other questions that loom large over this project and plan before you vote to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Chairman and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Captain Kendra Arneson. I'm from South Plaquemines Parish. I'm a licensed boat captain, and I've been involved in state and federal fisheries since I could get on the back of a boat and go. I'm here today representing the voice of many small family fishermen from Southeast Louisiana. I rise in strong opposition of the Mid-Barataria Sediment Diversion Project. I've attended more coastal restoration meetings than I can count in the last so many years. I believed in the past, I don't anymore. Maybe today, maybe it's changed today. I hope so. But I did believe by showing up and participating in those meetings, we could work alongside the previous Coastal Protection Restoration Authority to create responsible and reliable restoration projects that would restore our coast without sacrificing the communities, livelihoods, and ecosystems that we depend on. I was wrong. Instead of collaboration, what we experienced was a directive. A CPRA directive. Representatives did not come to listen. They came to tell us what was going to happen, regardless of how many of us spoke out about the devastating impact this massive diversion of polluted river water would have. The media and certain well-funded nonprofit organizations have painted fishermen like myself as selfish, say that we want to use it till we lose it, clinging to the status quo. That couldn't be further from the truth, and that's why I came today. We support coastal restoration, but we demand it be done responsibly. We want with transparency, accountability, and minimal harm to our marine environment and coastal communities. What's often overlooked in this discussion is the future we're fighting for. This isn't just about the fishermen working today. It's about the next generation of fishing families who are dependent on the natural resources and rich habitat this region provides. Our children and grandchildren deserve the same chance we had to build a life on the water, to work with their hands to feed their communities and their families. If we destroy the estuaries and fisheries they rely on, we don't just lose a way of life, we lose a vital part of America's food system. The fisheries of Southeast Louisiana are not just local. They are a national asset. They help feed millions of Americans, and they play a critical role in maintaining food security here at home. At a time when global supply chains are strained, protecting domestic food production should be a top priority. Projects like this one threaten them. What we will not accept are backroom deals, cherry-picked science, and regulatory shortcuts, yet that is exactly what has happened. Scientific data has been selectively used to justify a federal permit. A marine mammal protection waiver, something that should have had required a full process, was quietly inserted to a federal spending bill at night. Critical habitat protections were brushed aside. Meanwhile, the Water Institute's own findings show more wetlands will be harmed by this project than this project might build, as it is an experimental project. What's worse, the outfall area of this diversion, an area teeming with vital marine life, has barely been addressed. This is one of the most productive estuaries feeding the northern Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, and this project threatens its very foundation, the habitat that supports shrimp, crabs, oysters, finfish, and even migratory species, as this estuary feeds the entire northern Gulf of America. I'll finish up with, and then there's the revolving door. Let's not let that off the table today. The former CPRA director left public service and went straight to work for a firm that prepared the project's environmental impact statement. I thought that violated ethics and the law, but I guess they got around that. If that's not a red flag, I don't know what is. Over $200 million was already spent before the first single shovel of dirt was moved. That kind of spending without accountability is unacceptable moving forward. All we ask is simple, responsible. All we're asking is simple. We're asking for responsible and reliable coastal restoration that does the least amount of harm possible. We are ready to work with the CPRA to make that happen, but we will not sit by silently while this project threatens our livelihoods, our coast, and the marine environment that supports so much life in the Gulf. I urge this committee and the CPRA to break from the patterns of the past, follow the science, follow the impacts, and yes, always follow the money. Thank you for your time, for considering our voices. The voices of the fishermen are rarely heard in spaces and places like this, and I thought that it was important to bring a few of our young fishermen with us. Unfortunately, most of them are working on their boats, but I do have one with me. He had to step out. He couldn't sit here any longer. He's 25 years old, and he's the father of my grandson. He's my daughter's husband. Although we attempted, because of what we see in fisheries, to push our children away from fisheries, even though we're generational fishers, because we were so worried about our future. But the white boots, he wears them every day. He goes out and he targets multiple species throughout the year on different boats to feed his family, which is also my family. I want a future for him. You know, I'm really proud of Governor Landry for actually stepping up to the plate and swinging this bat on this one. I didn't think there was many things when I first met Landry that he and I would agree on, but this is definitely one of them, and I found several other items. I think he's a very intelligent individual, and I don't think he makes his decisions lightly. I hope that he comes to this space and place to defend his name. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Arneson. Was that Mr. DeCharo?
DeCharo.
DeCharo. I knew.
You were close.
I should have quit while I was ahead. Thank you. The board's clear. President would like to speak. That was Mr. DeCharo. President wishing to speak, Simone Malaz. While she's coming up, we also,
I'm the Churro.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
You want to go first?
Go ahead.
Is it on?
Yes.
All right, thank you for having me up here, and I want to thank Plaquemines Parish President, Mr. Hinkle, for being here, too. My name's Rocky DeCharo. I'm a shrimp buyer in Bureau, Louisiana, Plaquemines Parish. My biggest threats throughout my years of being as multi-generations was worried about cheap imports, hurricanes, high rivers wiping us out. But when I found out about this diversion, I started getting more into it. When BP given the money to the state, it said it was not to be used to hurt the natural resources of the state, meaning shrimp, fish, oysters, etc. It's in that U.S. fisheries. I didn't bring the people with me, but it is documented. CPRA admitted it would kill the brown shrimp, oysters, trout, redfish, and all in that area. So I got more involved. I started going to town meetings, button heads with Chip Klein, going to parish council meetings, and etc. So my thought is they talking about downsizing it. Well, if it was going to be a mile wide, I'm only using even numbers here. If it was going to be a mile wide and take 50 years, everyone would be dead by the time we know the results. If they want to decrease it to an eighth of a mile, well, you're not going to get the same results out of it over in 50 years. Another thing that I thought about was when me and Mr. Billy Nungazer went to the parish and Jefferson Parish Council meeting,
they kept talking about different things, and Billy said, follow the money. He's right, follow the money. If they spent hundreds of millions of dollars for a study, there should be a forensic accounting done. Who got that money? Why was it so much money being spent on this project? Way over budget. So I'm going to close on one thing. We all know as fishermen in the community the havoc it would put on people in our industry. On August 10th, 2023, they broke ground with shovels and did a photo op. The first casualty was done that day. Eric Hansen, a buyer for shrimp in Port Sulphur, committed suicide with the thought of this ruining a way of life, his family. He knew that day was going to come if this project would have been completed. He really jumped the gun and shouldn't have done what he did on day one. But we know as the project would get closer to being completed, and after what happened, the havoc it would cause on our community and our fishermen. So I pretty much think I covered everything without having nothing written down. But if you don't, y'all know that is a federal money was given to the state not to hurt our natural resources, and this project would have done that. And I want to thank Mr. Dovey for and killing this project, and I'm done with that now. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Simone Malaz. I am the campaign director for Restore the Mississippi River Delta. I was born and raised in Houma and now live in Jefferson. Dangerously mischaracterizing critical aspects of this project and engaging in a year-long effort to delay its implementation is a misguided effort to waste valuable time and threaten hundreds of millions of dollars already invested in this coast. Not just in this project that they are not talking about today, but also in other restoration and protection projects that have been constructed and planned as assumed that this project was going to be completed. It is in the future without action in the Coastal Master Plan that came before your committee last year. These actions jeopardize our communities and undermine scientific foundation for that Coastal Master Plan. I will keep my time with you short, but I want to ask you a few more questions for you to consider. Again, why are we here at this committee talking about a project that was not included in the presentation and not included in annual plan meetings? Why are we talking about a project that cost 1/3 of the entire budget? Meetings and letters to the Corps about the recent permit discussion started at the end of February, during which this draft was being circulated and was not finalized until April. There were no discussions, no proactive discussions on this project during the March and April CPRA board meetings or at the Governor's Advisory Commission meeting. Also, this annual plan doesn't take effect until July. The 90-day suspension of work, which preceded the suspension of the permit, will have concluded by then. Why is this before your committee without some of these answers? Why does the development of alternative get different treated? It was mentioned earlier. Federally authorized projects that would use the Corps to utilize for construction and operations as being discussed as an alternative would require a cost share by the state, as well as mandatory O&M costs conditional with that cost share agreement. These smaller diversions, the last of which was studied 12 years ago. Where is the science on the latest, smallest diversion? How does the state plan to address over $500 million in committed cost already? Dollars already spent. Will additional compensatory mitigation be required for work to be completed? Does the state plan to request additional dollars for the project, even though both the work and the permit have been suspended? Were you told projects in your area could benefit from the cancellation of this project? Did you know that this money was for a prescribed injury as a result of the Deepwater Horizon spill and subject to a solicitation process and a new restoration plan? How are projects going to be evaluated in the future with a Coastal Master Plan if the cornerstone project included in a future without action is no longer active? How many comments were submitted on the annual plan? How many of them were in support of or against the projects that you're considering today? today. What does any surplus request include? Does it include money for increased costs for projects, for cost shares, for O&M on other projects? These are questions that I would ask for you to consider before you make this vote today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malaz. The board is clear.
I'd like to rebuttal one thing she said, no, it can't.
Whoa. Is that it?
Oh, well, because the money was
No,
needed to be spent.
no, it's okay. You've had your time.
Thank you.
And in fact, we had referenced earlier in the committee a 3-minute rule, and we didn't have a quorum, so I think we allowed everyone to complete all of their comments from both sides. Mr. Chairman and Mr. Leday, we're on closing now. I realize this is the first step. You can come to the table if you need. First step in this process. This package also has to go to Natural Resources, I believe, and then both committees, if it's fortunate enough to make it that far, on the Senate side. And so I have a few cards left to read. Christy Trail, present, will provide information if requested. Present in support, not wishing to speak, Cindy Brown. James Curtis. Present in opposition, not wishing to speak, Thomas Milne and Yael Barra. Okay, gentlemen, the board is clear. I think that we've heard from both sides. I think you have some questions that were posed, and we still have a lengthy agenda. I don't want us to entertain the back and forth, but I'll let you make a closing comment without trying to incite further responses back.
Right.
So,
well, first of all, I'd like to tell the committee that in the annual plan is 145 other projects. First of all, that is not the linchpin of. I was here from 2004 to 2015, state representative, chairman of Natural Resources. Every parish has a linchpin. Ours at Terrebonne, you saw it earlier, is a gate. Lafourche Parish is an island called East Timley Island. You go to the west, you go wherever. Barataria is the Lake Bourne. The Breton Sound is the Lake Bourne 3,000 acre development. So, but first of all, what's misleading? There was said we proposing a Barataria land bridge, 23.5 miles, 6,800 acres. That's in this plan. We have also long distance pipeline settlement. That's in this plan. We are working with the Corps of Engineers on the alternative that is already approved by Congress. It was under the Word of Bill 2007. It's a 65-35% match. We are working with the Corps of Engineers on a smaller diversion to modify this larger one. That wasn't said here. You know, another thing is the Corps of Engineers made the decision to suspend it, not the CPRA. What we did, we suspended the construction because of the cost. They had cranes out there. They had trailers. They had equipment that was costing too much money while we're proceeding. The reason the 575 is in here because the project has not been officially modified or has it been terminated. So I can't take this out of here because you have federal partners which have all been notified on this. Another thing they're not telling you, this project has used up basically all your BP oil spill money that was bound for other parishes. It's the NERDA 660 million. I mean the NIFWIF 660 million. The NERDA 2.26 billion. Excuse me. Yeah, 2.26 billion. 2.8 billion is if you would build this project would be no longer available. But that's not the problem. It's above that. This state would have to put out hundreds of millions of dollars. And what was misleading, they said up here that the O&M is like $3 million a year. It's not $3 million. It's $50 to $100 million a year for dredging. Because as this sediment moves in there, it blocks bayous and waterways, and you can't do anything. You've got to dredge that. You've got production platforms out there. You've got numerous things that. And we had an engineer give us his figures. This is not Gordon Dove figures. The governor and the administration told me one thing: get me facts, figures, and backups, and that's what we've done. The whole while we've done it, we're asking this committee to approve 146 projects, one being the Mid-Barrett area that is going to be modified or it is going to be terminated because you cannot afford to build it. But we will build 19,000 acres in 10 to 12 years. In 50 years, y'all come back here and y'all tell me whether it works. The diversions are a good thing if they're small. Big. I've been doing this for 20 years. Terrebonne Parish, we built our own levee system. We taxed ourselves. Some environmental groups aren't telling you. 2 environmental groups objected to Terrebonne Parish's levee. We fought them to build our own levee back 15 years ago. So you heard the people from Plaquemines Parish. They don't want the diversion, but they want all the other projects that's in this plan right here. It's a good plan. Please vote for it. We will have an alternative, and we will release it as soon as the Corps of Engineers, and it's actually already authorized by Congress through the 2007 WRDA bill, and it's a 65-35% match with the state, and we can use NIFWIF funding out of the BP oil money. But let me tell you one more thing. $2.2 billion, the way we're going to move forward, will be redistributed to other parishes, including Plaquemines, for new projects. The money doesn't go away. Don't let anybody fool you. We're not going to be sued and lose money like people are trying to say. We have a Seymour professional lawyer that's handling it. We're working with the contractors. We're going to make the contractors make sure they're all taken care of in this project. You know, and one other thing, that in the contract has a terminate for convenience, meaning they cannot sue you for damages. That's misleading is what they're telling you. I plan to make all the contractors whole in this. The governor's on top of this. We're working by facts and figures. The Corps suspended this, not CPRA. We submitted information. This thing, I understand, went all the way to Washington. And look, they're regulatory, they're legal, it all went over it. It's suspended for reasons. And if y'all had another hour, I'd sit here and go through my reasons. They're right here. Mr.
Chairman, we do have another hour to entertain 8 other bills. So,
well, I just want to, Paul Harvey says, now you know the rest of the story, okay?
And I think that there's going to be another chapter in a week or so when it gets to the room down the road.
One last closing, Mr. This is about 146 projects in parishes across the state. This isn't about one. And the only reason it's in there, it has not been modified or terminated, so it has to stay in the annual plan.
Duly noted. Sounds like a complicated issue. We have a quorum. Representative Tarver has moved to report H.R. 36 favorable. Are there any objections? Seeing none, H.R. 36 is reported favorable, and Chairman Geymann will have fun with y'all the next time.
Thank y'all very much, members, and y'all have a great day. I'm sorry it took so long.
It's okay. It's important.
And you will be hearing back from us on the alternative. I'll give you my word on that.